Morning guys, back with another video, slightly delayed, but we have been very busy settling into my new job. For those of you that don't know, especially with all the businesses closing and stuff recently, like cake businesses, I decided that I would change jobs to something that fits better with the cakes but also is an extra income. So I do my cakes Thursday to Sunday, and then I work in finance on Monday to Thursday, and I'm absolutely loving it. And now that I've got my schedule sorted, I will be uploading a little bit more. Sorry for the delay. This video is a requested one. Don't know, I've just been on the sunbed and looking so red and also extra ginger, so please excuse that. But this was a requested video about cookie pies because they've been insanely popular and people want to know how to make them. The recipe that I use is not my own, I will happily admit that. It is the Finch Bakery recipe. It is perfect as it is. The only thing that I change is the fillings, as in like the proportions, because the proportions in the recipe I didn't quite like. And I've also changed the amount of layers. So I think in the recipe there's like 2 layers of cookie, so then there's 3 layers of filling. I thought that was too much, so I changed it to 1 middle layer, which then means that you've got 2 layers of filling, if my maths is right. So yeah, but I don't want to share the recipe in this video because obviously it's not mine, and I kind of want people to go and buy the book to support Finch Bakery rather than me just giving out their recipe for free. So that is a recipe that I use. It's from their new book. I got mine off of Amazon. I think it was like 12 to 15 pounds, something like that. It's not overly expensive and it is a hard copy, so it's definitely worth it. And there are plenty of other things in there which are also very useful. But yeah, so that is the spiel and we're gonna get right into the video. It's a little time lapse. I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, please put them down below. I tried to film everything. I think the only bit I didn't film is the oven section, but I will be explaining throughout the video what I did and just how it's actually made. So even though I forgot that bit, I'll let you know what temperature and everything at the end. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. So you want to start by lining your tins. So you're going to need to either use butter, stalk, or you can use oil to wipe around your tins, and then that will help your parchment paper stick. I cut mine into circles around the base of the tin, and then I cut little strips. I find that smaller strips stick better than one long strip, just because of the shape of my tins. And then I just stick that around the edges like so. Once you've lined your tins, we're then going to start putting our cookie mix into our tins. So I take a little lump and I spread that around the base first, and then I slightly go up in the sides, just round those corners, and then it makes it easier to stick it all together once you start going up the sides. So as you can see here, I'm starting to put the mix around the sides of the tins. I don't go all the way to the top because the cookie pie will rise. It has got baking powder in it, so it will rise on its own, so you don't want to go all the way to the top, otherwise it will overflow. And I find that using gloves and your fingers is the best way to get this in the tin, so it's the quickest and most effective. Once you've fully lined both of your tins, you're going to put them in the fridge. I leave mine for anything between 15 and half an hour, just so that they set nice, and then it means that when you start to put the filling in, they're going to be nice and firm, and they'll remain firm whilst you're doing that filling, because that will take time and they will start to soften. So the recipe does detail what to put as a filling / the measurements. I always do my own just because I prefer different measurements, and it also depends on what you're using. So here I'm using caramel milk. So in order to actually make this, I needed to mix it with some white chocolate, otherwise it would be really strong. And then also I add a little bit of oil. If you're using chocolate, then add a dash of oil just until it's a nice consistency. But if you're using things like spread, you don't need to add any oil, and you also don't have to mix it with chocolate. You can just use it as a spread filling. So it really just depends on what your filling is. As you can see here, I'm just adding a bit of oil. I do it by eye, but it's usually about a tablespoon, and that will make it nice and runny and stop your chocolate from cracking. If you don't mix it with oil, then it will set hard, and then when you go to cut your cookie pie, it's going to be solid chocolate, and it also means that when they come to eat it, it's going to be quite solid, whereas you want it to be a little bit soft so that it's nice and gooey inside the cookie pie. Once you've done your first layer of filling, it needs to go back in the fridge to set. When it comes to chocolate fillings, they take less time. You can probably leave it in there for approximately 10 minutes and it will set hard, and then that means that when you put your next layer of cookie down, it's not going to move around. However, if you are using spread fillings, I usually leave it for about 20 to 30 minutes in the fridge, because it does take longer to set, and it won't set completely hard. So when you do add that layer of cookie, you have to be a little bit more careful when you're using things like Nutella and Biscoff, but it's definitely doable. But just make sure that you're not applying that cookie layer before it's set, otherwise the filling will just flatten, and then it means that when it bakes, you're going to have really thin layers of filling. So once you've let that final layer of filling set, again, the same as before, depending on what you've actually filled it with, then you add your final layer of cookie. Again, I always add slightly more in terms of height than I need, and then I use it to seal the edges. So as you can see here, I do the middle section first, and then what I will do is bend down the edges around the side of the tin, because then it seals it and you don't have any gaps. Whereas if you do it to the exact height, then you have to blend those gaps and make sure there's no holes, otherwise your filling will start to spill out when you actually bake the cookie pie. So I forgot to include the section where I put it in the oven. I put my cookie pies in the oven for 30 minutes at 170 because it is a fan oven. If it's not a fan oven, then I believe it's 190. And I find that this gives them a nice crispy top. They're still gooey in the centre, and then you just let them cool for half an hour before putting them in the fridge. So I hope you enjoyed and found that useful in some way. Like I said at the beginning, the recipe is Finch Bakery's, so go and get their book and support them because they are doing amazing, and also that book is amazing. It's got so many good recipes in it. I haven't actually tried that many of them just because I don't have time, but I am going to try and do a few more, and I might do some videos on them. I am going to be making a I think it's either a cookie log or a brownie log, you know, like the Yule logs for Christmas, because Christmas is coming up. So I'm going to try and do a video on that because, again, I thought that might be useful. So keep your eyes peeled and I will see you in my next video.